This is your Strength and Speed host, Evan Preparis. I need to apologize for part of this episode. While I've been traveling, I've been unplugging and replugging in my mic and shutting on and off my computer. And for this episode, my mic was actually recording through my computer and not my external mic. And the result is I sound kind of crappy. Tim Oliver, however, on this episode sounds very clear. So you can just bear with us for this episode and not worry about myself and kind of focus on Tim. I would appreciate it. Anyway, enjoy the episode.
Welcome back to the Strength and Speed podcast. I'm your host, Evan Preparis, and not joining me this week is Brenna Calvert. This week's episode is brought to you by Hammer Nutrition. Hammer Nutrition makes endurance supplements from ultra-endurance fuel like their Perpetuum with a fat, carb, and protein mixture, to gels, to Heed, their electrolyte/carb replacement. And they also make whey protein with no additives, so it's just straight-up whey. So if you like their supplements, go ahead and head over to hammernutrition.com, check them out, and use referral code 240887 for 15% off your first order. Also, if you want to know more about obstacle course racing and training plans, you can pick up my book, Strength and Speed's Guide to Elite Obstacle Course Racing, off my website, teamstrengthspeed.com. And we'll plug that again at the end. Since Brenna is not on the call today, I do have a special guest. It is Timothy Oliver, 22-year-old obstacle course racer who lives in Sydney, Australia. If you follow World's Toughest Mudder, you'll know that he finished 4th overall with 95 miles last year at the age of 21. He's got some other highlights, including the Aussie Suck Showdown, a 24-hour race where he finished 1st in 2016. He finished 3rd in True Grit 24-hour Enduro, which we'll be talking about a lot during this episode, and finished 1st at 2016 Anzac Day 100-kilometer race. He's currently looking for some sponsors, so anyone listening to this, if you want to sponsor an amazing ultra-distance athlete, you can check him out. And his big events for the year are going to be World's Toughest Mudder and True Grit. So, Tim, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to talk to you.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Brenna and I are actually both heading out to True Grit Enduro this year, so we wanted to pick your brain a little bit ahead of time.
Awesome. It's a really good event. It's quite, but it's a really challenging course. There's some obstacles which I hate more than anything at World's Toughest Mudder, but there's also, in some areas, it's easier as well.
Okay, so you broke up a little bit there. So I think you said it's cold, right?
Yeah, it does get quite cold. Not quite as cold as World's Toughest Mudder, or depending on the year, obviously. So it's cold. There's quite a bit of water in it still, and a swim, and quite a lot of. There's a whole mile of going through knee deep to ankle deep water.
Oh wow! How's the elevation compared to World's Toughest?
So it's 2 or 3 minuscule climbs, and yeah, it's almost perfectly flat course. 2 kind of loops for the course. And so elevation is very easy and not very challenging elevation-wise.
Okay. And kind of take us through the atmosphere. World's Toughest Mudder is kind of like a gigantic party. There's an obscene amount of people. There's like 1,200. So how does that compare with True Grit's 24-hour event?
So True Grit's only got about 250 individuals going through the race compared to the over 1,000 at World's Toughest Mudder. So the whole sense isn't quite there with the whole atmosphere. Not everyone's as pumped up. The volunteers are not the same as World's Toughest Mudder. They're not as into it. But it's still, that makes it even more challenging. You haven't got almost everyone out there going, yeah, smash it out like at World's Toughest Mudder. But so that adds an extra challenge to the course.
Gotcha,
but
yeah.
It's still quite a good event overall, yeah.
Yeah, I've done a 24-hour obstacle course race called Shell Hell in Vermont. And
Yeah.
similar thing, you know, probably about 100 people there. So you get more of that like ultra distance feel. Like if you've done ultra distance.
You're on your own out there. You'll be gone for a little while in the night sometimes, and you won't see anyone for at least a couple hundred meters. You'll just be running on your own, and compared to with World's Toughest, you're constantly running past people or they're running past you, and you feel like you're right alongside of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the obstacles. You said a couple of them you absolutely hate. So what's the ones you hate?
The one that I absolutely hate, it's the mile river. You're staying in it for about a mile. It's between ankle deep to knee deep, and the grounding. So you're just trying to get through it, and it really just slows you down and wears down your legs quite a lot. Yeah,
I could see that being a lot, not a lot of fun there.
Yeah, and also to add to that, you've got right after you get out of that one, you've got a very steep incline with a sandbag carry. And quite often during the race we've had rain, so when the sandbag gets wet, doubles the weight.
Right.
And so you're going up that hill and coming down right after going through the mud mile is quite challenging there.
Okay. Is it like World's Toughest where if you fail obstacles, they do like a little penalty loop, or?
So besides the sandbag carry and ammo carry, which are compulsory, instead of a penalty loop, they've just got a 10 burpee penalty. So it's pretty easy for the penalty, just 10 burpees and then move on.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. So you're, obviously you crushed World's Toughest this past year with 95 miles. I think I remember you passing me at some point and just cruising past me.
I remember going into the monkey bars with you, and there was a massive line and just jumping pretty much straight into the water for that one.
Yeah. 95 miles. How do you think you pull that off? What's your secret to success, you think? Fueling, pacing, a little bit of everything?
I've got a very strong mental attitude. I really, once I've set a goal, I'll push myself and see what my limit can be and try and expand my limits with every time I push. But I think something that really helped me in World's Toughest Mudder, well, not only my faith in God, but also I set myself, let's have fun, and I took the pressure off myself from the start, and I pretty much said, I don't want to know what position I'm coming, at least for the first while. I don't want it to wear on me like it does on some of the people who started out really fast and then they get overtaken and they just seem to get discouraged and then drop off. I wanted to just give it my best the whole time, and then right at the end, I found out what position I was coming, and I just picked up my pace and gave it the rest of everything I had.
Nice. So when was the first time you looked at your placing?
I knew kind of roughly that I was going all right from the start, but it was probably almost second, third last lap. I knew I was around in the top 10 before that though, but it was second last lap, and my brother's gone to me, you're in fourth place with fifth place, 200 metres behind you, and it just got me running. I just couldn't stop that lap, and I ran consistent negative splits for the last couple laps as well.
Jeez, that's impressive. Very impressive. I also think it's impressive that you managed to make it that long without knowing. I did something similar. Like I didn't really want to know until past the 12-hour mark. And I agree with you. I think that helps. It kind of takes some of that pressure off, and you just kind of cruise for that first half or plus.
Yeah, it took the pressure off. I still knew I was up there, which was really helping, and I was happy with how my lap times were going. And but then when it gets hard, I find it plays on my mind a lot. If someone runs past you and you're like, oh, I've just got overtaken, another spot. But taking that pressure off, it just freed my mind up to just go for it and have fun and enjoy the whole experience as well.
That's great. So how many years have you done World's Toughest?
So that's my third year, second year in Vegas. I also did 2013 in New Jersey.
Okay, how'd you do the other 2 years?
So first year started off, I was doing quite well. I was still quite young, and it was the longest race I'd ever done. So I started off quite fast. I was was in fourth for a little while around the 8-hour mark, then slipped down. My hammies went on me, and I only ended up with 55 mile, having to pull out about 13 hours in.
Gotcha. So you just started out too fast, you think?
Yeah, and also didn't have quite that experience with running 100 plus kilometers and that. So my legs I didn't probably have the training on my legs for endurance.
Gotcha. Yeah. You're actually very young for like an ultra endurance athlete. Like that's I'm very, very impressed that you're 22 and crushing these enormous races. I know my priorities were elsewhere when I was your age.
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed just seeing my limit. Like I started really young, and I always figured, well, I might not be able to run as fast as some other people, but I can keep going for longer than them. So that really helped.
Yeah, I feel the same way. That's kind of how, when I was younger and growing up, like I was never the fastest. So I was like, all right, well, I'll just run a little longer. And like, and eventually someone will be impressed that I'm running for a long time. And it just kind of, it just snowballed out of control. And now it's like, oh, let's see how far I can go before my body completely shuts down. So I definitely feel you there.
Yeah, so I probably started, when I was around 13, I started just went out and I'm like, oh, I can run 10 kilometers. So set it up in the backyard and just ran over 100 laps in the backyard and then kept building up from there.
Wow. So take me through, now that you're, not running circles around your backyard, take me through like an average training week for you. Like how many times are you doing run training? Are you doing interval training? Are you doing strength training? Kind of just take us through a week.
So it also depends on, I do quite a lot outside of my training, so it also depends on my work life at that time. Sometimes I try to include work as part of my training. As a carpenter, I'm constantly lifting and carrying, and when I'm going hard, it's almost a workout for strength-wise, so I try to incorporate that as part of my strength training for the week. On top of that, it'll depend week by week, but up to 160 or 100 mile week, and as low as between 50 to 100 on a good week. Yeah,
that's quite a lot of volume. That's solid.
Yeah, so when just heading in probably 2 months prior, that's when I've really started sticking to the perfect training weeks and building up the volume in prep for the 24-hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then adding in and also obstacle technique.
Okay. Do you do shorter races too throughout the year, or do you mostly stick with the ultra stuff?
So at ultra stuff, that's currently my strength. That's where I normally go better. But I also do a number of the shorter races as well. I don't do. I still enjoy getting out there and going for them.
So tell us about some of the obstacle course race series in Australia. So yeah.
One of the big ones that I'm a big fan of is Raw Challenge, and that's set out on a 6-kilometre loop with 50 obstacles, and they've got almost all the obstacles from all the different races. That's actually a qualifying race for Obstacle Racing World Championship Series as well. So that course is set up. You've got wall climbs. You've got up to 10-foot wall. And it's mandatory to get over that, otherwise there's burpees for that one. And you got rope climbs. It's got a lot, and that's a really fun one for just anyone, really. Even if you want to compete, they've got an elite wave, and it's a really fun one to go through with a team as well. And
what distance is that?
That's 6 kilometres, so about 3-4 miles.
Yeah. Okay. And then obviously True Grit's one of the other major series, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah, True Grit's quite major. Their main one is the Enduro for most of the people. A number of ones all over Australia, and they're more army based. So because they've come from a more army background than Tough Mudder, they're including ammo carry. So you've got 2 like ammo boxes you're carrying out, and yeah, that's a really good event too. They're really set up, and they're not as big as some of the other big events, but they're Australian and they do quite well for themselves.
Okay. What else? Are there any other kind of major series? Like I know in America we have kind of the big ones are Spartan, Warrior Dash, and Tough Mudder.
We've got Spartan as well. So there's the Australian Spartan race series that goes on. And a lot of the Aussies will still head over for some of the American ones too. But so it's just the same really with Spartan here, except obviously because it's smaller country, there's not as many events each year. So there's only about less than 10 Spartan events for the year in Australia. And so it's mainly Raw Challenge, True Grit, and Spartan and Tough Mudder would be the main ones, although Tough Mudder are not having many events at the moment here.
Okay, yeah, I think they just started expanding some other countries in the last 2 to 3 years. That's what I'm saying.
About 3 years ago they had about 8 different locations. This year they've kind of, and last year they kind of cut back to about 2 or 3 different locations in Australia throughout the year.
Okay. You said as part of your intro, you were I cited your first place win at the Aussie Suck Showdown. What is that? An OCR or is that like a?
So it's actually American based. So if you've heard of Gut Check Fitness or the Ultimate Suck race, that's a 36-hour race they have over in America, run by the Deckers at their farm. With that, him and his wife came over to Australia and ran Suck series. It's pretty much 12 hours of making your life suck. It's kind of like the death race from Spartan, except it's 12 hours and it's a more positive environment, really trying to push you to push past your limits and set new limits for yourself. So they had a 24-hour version of that, and that was quite a challenging race. With there was a 5-kilometre bucket carry with 2 23-kilogram buckets or 2 50-pound buckets, and so that really weared out your arms for it. Yeah.
Do you typically do events like that, or is that kind of off your normal?
I enjoy events like that. It just depends on how my racing schedule's going and whether I can fit it in. I used the 24-hour. It was about 6 weeks prior to World's Toughest Mudder, and I just went into that and decided to use it as training, have some fun, and really just work on my mindset for it in prep for World's Toughest Mudder. So I enjoy them, although they're very good for training and team building, it's still a bit of a race going on there too.
So when you arrive for World's Toughest Mudder, how many days do you arrive prior, and then kind of how many days do you stay afterwards?
So for World's Toughest Mudder, I've tried to do it for the years that it's done well. I came 2 weeks prior, and I just travelled around the US visiting a number of the different cities, both West and East Coast. So 2 weeks arriving before, and I had my last big training weekend in LA, just hitting up a number of the hills and trails there. And then 2 weeks of tapering off significantly. And then afterwards I did stay for a week this time. I did find when I went over for the 8-hour toughest, I arrived 2 days prior to the race, about an hour into the race, I felt absolutely exhausted, and I think that was jet lag and a lot going on. Just coming over so quick, I couldn't really adjust and recover from the plane.
Yeah. I actually, for 2015 World's Toughest, I was actually over on the other side of the world in Lebanon, and I actually flew in like the day before, raced for 24 hours, and then I got on a plane and flew back, and I felt like while I was standing on the starting line, I felt fine, and I felt like I was ready to go, but I feel like my body just didn't have that normal extra gear it has. I just felt like in the middle of the night, I just felt sluggish. So.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt at Toughest Mudder LA. I thought I was all ready. I'd done my training. Then I got to the start line. I felt good. Probably exhaustion just started hitting me, and then obviously I was flying out the next night, Sunday night, right after the race, pretty much. So it was quite an exhausting trip overall.
Yeah.
No, it was good fun.
Are you planning on doing any other toughest mudders or not so much?
So I haven't. I'm thinking about it still. Just depending how if I can fit it in with my schedule. I wouldn't mind heading to a little bit later on. Either the July one or I think there's one in August too.
Yeah, I think the August one is Chicago. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of heading over for that one. Okay. Just depending if I can fit it all in. Yeah.
Okay. And you said you're a carpenter. I know before we started recording, we talked a little bit about some other work you do as a trainer, right?
Yeah, so there's a new gym that's just launched in Australia, and it's also headed over to America. It's 45-minute circuit-style training, kind of like CrossFit, except it uses technology in a better way so the trainers can really push you, and it is very good for overall fitness. It's called F45. So that's very good. I've used that before as part of my training for the events, and really smashes everything, builds strength at the same time as really pushing your cardiovascular system as well. So I'm working full-time as a carpenter, but I'm also waking up at 4 a.m. and doing 5 a.m. classes and 6 a.m. classes, heading off to work and then coming back in the evening to run classes as well. So yeah.
That sounds like a packed schedule.
Yeah, it's pretty packed at the moment. Just like pushing my limits in each area of my life, so it's been good. And then I'm hoping to cut back on some of my work's schedule in the second half of this year and really focus on my training and being in best form going into World's Toughest Mudder this year.
Yeah, sounds great. Is your job supportive of essentially like taking more time off than, let's say, the average person for training?
To a certain extent, I really haven't really taken much time off at all. I've pretty much only taken my base time off each year and just fit in the training around it. But that's something that I'm looking to talk to them about coming up soon, taking more time off, and so I can put more hours into the training each week.
Okay. And then what's your so for this year, your big plans, right, are Enduro 2.4 and World's Toughest? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. World's Toughest is really the big one this year, and I've got a goal of finishing on Spartan podium in one of the events in Australia, and just increasing my speed and just the intensity level, being able to keep up with that for those shorter distance races as well.
I still like to do short distance races too. It's just fun, you know. You get out there, you can run for 40 minutes, and then like you can still walk the next day. So that's always a cool thing.
Yeah, that's it. After World's Toughest Mudder, you feel like I feel like quite mentally and emotionally just completely gone after just giving everything out there for 24 hours.
Yeah, I feel like I got hit by a truck afterwards. Like I feel absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I think the walk back to the car is worse than the actual race.
Yes, absolutely. I look somewhat fine. I cross the finish line. I'm like, all right, I can make it about 10 more feet. I need to lay down. And then they're like, all right, now you have to move all your crap back to the car. And it's like, no, dude, I'm not. It's not happening. Like, I'll just lay on the ground out here for the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt, pretty much. Someone take me out of the misery then. That's all I felt like afterwards. But it's such a good sense of achievement as well.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like me and you are a lot on the same page. Like I go in, I mean, that's in my event, the last event for the year. That's my most important event. And I will run my body down until it's got nothing left. Like, so
yeah.
I come out of that event and it's like, and I don't want to do anything, ever again. And then that goes, I forget about how awful I feel about 48 hours later, and I start thinking about next year again.
Yeah, you just, and when you get that result that you're after, it's just worth it all in the end. That you know you pushed yourself past what you thought was possible and just kept going.
All right. So your goal coming into 2016, was it a top 5 finish, or what?
It was definitely. I had that in the back of my mind, but I was going for as close to the 100 100 miles as I could get. And I was very close with increasing my speed. I only just missed doing the last lap by about 13 minutes, and my final lap was an hour and 8 minutes, which I was quite happy with.
Yeah, that's moving. That's especially at that. That's incredibly fast at that point in the night or morning, whatever. 24 hours into the event.
So that was really one of my big focuses as well. I wanted to try and run a negative split at the end because I knew that's when I could really make a move up the field, and that's what eventually happened.
Yeah, because people towards the second half of the event, I mean, people just their pace drops dramatically. It's I mean, the majority of the field's walking, and if you can even sustain a jog, you'll move up the field.
Yeah, for sure. It's exactly like that. And that's the thing. A lot of people will start out very fast, but then they realize too late that that's just not sustainable. And it's all about how far you get in the end, not how far you get right at the start. Very true.
So have you been to OCRWC, the World Championship in Canada or Ohio?
I haven't. That's something I'd like to do. It's just... really, it's over the other side of the world, which makes it very hard. But it is something that's on my list of things to do, and I'd love to compete at it this year. It just depends how I can work it in with my work life and whatnot.
Yeah, I hear you. I know. I've been eyeing True Grit for about 3 years now, so I've been just kind of waiting for the right year to do it, and things kind of lined up this year. So,
that's awesome.
That's only one trip on the other side of the world versus you taking multiple each year. So I definitely feel you there. But it is I don't do particularly well at OCRWC. I mean, I finish all the obstacles. I keep my band, but I think I finished like 76th in the pro wave this year, something like that. But it's just the event itself is just so much fun, and like we talked about, I can finish the race and then go get a coffee and walk around the festival and hang out with people. So it's a cool crowd.
That's what makes it.
Yeah, kind of very similar to World's Toughest with the everyone that's there is just kind of obsessed with the sport in general. So.
Yeah, it's really good in that environment. A lot of my friends have headed over and competed at that one, which was quite good.
Most of my podcast listeners are American, so I'm not sure how many Australians I have, if I have any. But what do you wish that some of the American athletes or some of the American, OCR competitors should know about Australian athletes or Australian OCR in general?
Oh, there's quite a few Australians who have the ability to go quite well at a World's Toughest Mudder race. The distance of travel stuffs some of them, and also just the time zone change. Lachlan Dancy, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's very good. He's won the last 2 years of the True Grit Enduro. And he's really up there. He represented the Australian team in 2014 when they headed over for World's Toughest Mudder and came second. There's also a number of other ones who really up there. Obviously, everyone knows Deanna Blake, and really hope she'll be back out there competing soon. But I have heard that the Spartan Australian obstacles are harder than the American ones. Don't know how true that is yet, but yeah.
Well, I know I'm honestly opinionated because I race a lot of different series. I know to me the Spartan obstacles are very, how do I say this without offending people? They're kind of simple, right? So it's like, here's a sandbag carried up the hill, and it's awful, don't get me wrong, but there's not a lot of technicality to it. Or here's a log carried up a hill, here's a long low crawl, here's a hoist, and really the only technical obstacle is really the rig. And by my standards, I think most of their rigs are pretty easy. They're mostly rings. So if the Australian ones are technical, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, there's some where even the top people are slipping off. Obviously, we got quite wet monkey bars in the morning, so slipping off them, and we had another one come in as well. There's which once you get used to it, you're quite good at, but they're adding in a couple extras, and it's good though. It keeps it challenging, and really gets the heart rate. Yeah, they still push you. They're a bit more technical, I think, from what I've heard. I haven't done an American one. I've just heard some of the Aussies who went over to Spartan in Hawaii have said, who did quite well and podiumed there. They reckoned that it was quite a bit easier, some of the obstacles, than over here. But no, it's good in the end. It keeps everyone challenged and having fun.
Yeah, and I agree. I think I like that the sport is versatile and there's a lot of different obstacles and race types. I think that's what makes it interesting and unique. That just because Spartan is not my favorite brand doesn't mean it's not great for someone else who loves all those heavy carries and throwing spears and stuff like that. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to be on a personal note. So I'm going to be in Australia for about 2 weeks, doing some sightseeing. So what do I need to see as a tourist in Australia?
Which cities are you going to? Just Sydney or?
Yeah, so we're going to start in Sydney and then we're going to hit Brisbane and I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Cairns. By the Great Barrier Reef. Cairns. There you go. So I think we're going to hit those. I've actually been to Australia once before, and I did Sydney, Melbourne, and Adelaide. So
nice.
Going the opposite direction this time.
So Sydney, Cairns, and
Brisbane.
And Brisbane. Oh yeah.
Brisbane.
In Sydney, there's quite a few things to see. How close are you going to the race start date? Like, are you going to go hiking or anything, or running beforehand?
No, I mean, I'm showing up a couple of days.
Okay.
Hopefully getting my body to adjust, and then just doing some local sightseeing, museums, kind of downtown Sydney type stuff.
Yeah, nice. Oh, obviously the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge, you've probably seen them last time you came, but they're probably two of the biggest things. Catching the ferry over to Manly. Then, obviously, make sure you walk the Harbour Bridge. It's quite a nice walk. And just around Darling Harbour is quite nice as well. If you were going to go out to see any of the mountains, the Blue Mountains, they're about an hour and a half from city Sydney. And there's quite a lot of nice walks around there and waterfalls to see. And there's also Royal National Park. There's a 30-kilometre coastal walk. That's a very nice walk there. And quite a lot of people do that. Besides that, it's just really the main things. I haven't done really any sightseeing in Brisbane myself. I've probably seen more of the US than I've seen of Australia sightseeing-wise.
I feel like that's always the way it is. Like wherever you live, like you don't do the touristy stuff. Like I grew up in parts in New York, and I had friends that were like, yeah, I never went to the Statue of Liberty, and I never, went to the World Trade Center when it was standing. Like, they live there their entire lives, and it's like 20 minutes away or whatever. So.
The things to see in Sydney, but outside of Sydney, I've probably seen more of different cities in America than I've seen of them.
Gotcha. Anything else you want to talk about before we call it a night, or morning for you, a night for me?
Probably just my brother Josh. He was over in the US with me, and he supported me for the full 24 hours. Yeah, that made a big difference for me, having a support crew at World's Toughest Mudder. He didn't stop the whole time. I'd literally run into the station. I had a little drink bottle holder. I'd give him my empty bottle. He'd give me another one with a couple of nutrition bars, and off I'd go for the next lap. And that made a big impact on my race, just having someone there supporting me. And that's his third time to come over and support me for it. So big thanks to him. And for anyone who does a big 24-hour race, if you can get a support crew, get someone there to support you, because it'll make a massive difference. And it's really good when you're feeling like you're dead at the end, just having someone helping you get to the car, get your gears to the car, etc.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. My dad and my wife picked through for me. and it's like you just need it. It's even something simple like, oh, I'm gonna take off my sock, and like your abs cramp and your foot cramps, and you can't bend over that far.
Or putting on your wetsuit in the middle of the night, they can quickly pass it to you and help you slide it on nice and easy when you're trying to zip up fast and head out and whatnot.
Yeah, the pit crew actually next to me, April B, who came in fourth for the females, her pit crew with like Justin Rose and stuff, ran over and helped me get my wetsuit on because like my dad was having trouble, and I think my wife was back at the hotel taking care of the baby at that time. So.
Oh wow! Oh, awesome. Yeah, it's really good once you pit crew, you've given them a bit of an idea of what they're going to go through and what they're going to do, and it makes a big difference on, I think, everyone who's racing to finish near the tops. It really makes a big difference.
Yeah, totally agree. I give my pit crew very specific instructions, and they know exactly what I want per lap. And then on top of that, they have some like extra stuff in case I change my mind mid-lap. But I actually think, like for me as a racer, staying up for 24 hours, like my mind's focused. I'm very aware of what I'm doing. Like I think being a pit crew for me, that personally would be like harder because you're just kind of waiting for an hour, an hour and a half for someone to run through and see you for a minute and then run away again.
Yeah, and they've got to, when you come in, it's all action for them. They've got to be really encouraging as well through that time. So that's quite challenging, especially for a 24-hour period, especially when they're probably almost falling asleep in between laps. And I know my brother was setting an alarm so he could have a quick nap in between laps and trying to get up and make sure he was there right at the start, so I wouldn't have to go back to my actual pit. So I could just walk inside and swap over and run out again.
Yeah, I mean, my dad does the same exact thing. It saves minutes per lap that you'd have to run significantly faster to make up, right? Yeah. So I think most of the top guys are doing that.
Yeah, big game changer, I think.
We're like, I mean, obviously we're both kind of the ultra-OCR athletes, so our mindset
I
and
really
stuff
enjoy the ultra. I'm trying to get into more of because I'm still quite young, so I'm still trying to get in, compete more with the top guys who've been doing it for still a couple years longer than me for the shorter distance. But it's going well.
Your future's gonna be ridiculous. Like at 22, I mean, I just wasn't even scratching the surface of my endurance. Like I'm 34 now, and I feel like I'm stronger. I can run longer and stronger and faster every year. For the last decade. So,
because
I'm sure
30's meant to be when you're hitting your peak for endurance in your 30s or late 20s. So I'm hoping to just keep expanding and keep just growing as an athlete, and from there,
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be on the podium at World's Toughest in the next couple of years, if not this year. So
it would be good. Yeah, it was. I remember because I think at World's Toughest last year, it was like third lap. I was like running alongside of you, I think back and forth for a bit, and then I think it was like my last lap, probably your second last, and I ran past, and you were there going, "Oh, what lap are you on?" Because you're worried I was overtaking you from behind, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm on this one," and I was like, I saw you, and I'm like, "Is this the person that I'm meant to overtake?" And I was kind of like, "Oh no, do I have to is this going to be a fight back and forth to the end?" And I was like, "Oh, phew."
Yeah, because you passed me, and when you said what lap you're on, I was like, "Oh, thank God, I've got nothing left in the tank to battle this guy. Like he'll just blow past me. Like I got nothing." So. Yeah,
because it was right near the end, and it was Matthew Hansen. It was literally 200 meters behind me. I couldn't see him, and I didn't know exactly who it was and what he looked like, and I knew of him because he'd competed before, and I went out in the last lap. I actually had a Red Bull in my hand. I was just going to go for it, and it was my third lap of the race, obviously due to obstacles being clogged up, was about an hour and 7 minutes, and then my last lap I finished off with an hour and 8 minutes, so I was really happy with that, but I really felt that last lap,
Yeah, incredible. Good stuff. Cool. Well, before we take off, any final thanks or shout-outs you want to give besides your brother?
Mainly my brother, but just also my dad as well. He's really he's gone through quite a lot health-wise lately, but even from a young age, he's always encouraged me to really push myself and give my best in everything I did. And yeah, just my family mainly. Yeah.
Great. It's been Tim. It's been great talking to you. I will see you in about 6 weeks when I'm in Australia racing
Awesome.
next year. Hopefully, I'll keep you in my sights.
Sounds like we might be going back and forth for a bit.
Yeah, well, hopefully, we'll see. So yeah, I'm excited to head over there and check out Australia again and check out TrueGrid and talk to some more of the Australian athletes. Brenna and I'm sure we'll be doing some live streaming from Facebook and Mud Run Guide and stuff like that. So we'll definitely get some interviews, like actually on the spot with you at the actual race venue.
Yeah, awesome. That'll be great.
Yeah. And if any Australians are listening to this that want a copy of my book, just let me know, and I will bring some over in my luggage with me, so you don't have to pay the absurd amount for shipping, because it's like $25, which is more than the price of the book for shipping. It's like stupid.
That's true.
But so yeah, feel free to hit me up on Facebook, anyone that wants a copy of that. And Tim, again, thanks for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you twice this year, maybe 3 times that toughest. So, so thanks again.
Awesome. All right.